Hey, Tina.
Hey, Tara, I made you the host if you have anything to share on the screen.
Perfect. Will do. All right. Hello, everybody. We've got about 1 minute until the top of the hour. So I'm glad to see you guys trickling in. I see some familiar faces and names. We'll get started in just a minute. We'll let a few people trickle in here. Oh, we got our first guy. I was like, is it just going to be ladies' night or what? All right. Welcome, everybody. So, how is the challenge going? Let's use the chat function. Let me know. How are you doing? Give me a little snapshot in the chat of how you're doing, any struggles that you're having, any questions that you have about nutrition. I have a slide deck prepared and we have a topic for tonight, but would also love to see if anyone has anything they want me to cover this evening. I know I'm just hitting you right as you're logging in, so feel free to use the chat as we go along. Andrew, what's been tough about the eating? What are you struggling with?
Hey, sorry, I was trying to type. I think for me, like, when I work, I find I pre-make my meals, but the days off, it's just been hard to eat healthy. I always have food in the house that's not healthy, and I tend to eat that, and I tend to take away all my gains by end of the week.
Okay. It's amazing how you can undo 5 days of good in like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll talk about that a little bit. That's actually going to fit really well into the topic for tonight. So thank you for sharing that struggle. Can anyone relate? Yes, I know I can too. Remember, I'm human first and dietitian second. So yeah. All right, Madison's asking about collagen powder. I can touch on that a little bit. I have not prepared my fourth and final presentation for 2 weeks from now, but I was thinking about doing supplements. We had talked about that at the first one, that, some of you had some questions about that. So I can throw the collagen into that, maybe in more depth, but maybe just touch on it just for a brief second tonight as well, Madison. Anyone else? Those of you who are just joining. Professor Nuts. I am not familiar with that. What's different about it, Kelly, than like regular peanut butter?
Okay, hold on. I need a video of myself too, so you can see this. Okay, wait, okay. So I got it at Southern Nutrition, and it looks like it's too good to be true because it says it has 37, well, that's calories per serving. But then it says at the bottom, so it has like a whole.
Wait, it has 37 calories?
Take a look, maybe you can read this. So it says it's had 37 calories here, but then in little print, it will say like something about nutrition facts without digestibility corrected. What does that mean?
Okay, so tell me, what is a serving? 1 tablespoon?
2 tablespoons.
2 tablespoons, okay. And how many grams of carbohydrate?
4.98.
Okay. And how many grams of protein?
Protein, 8.9.
And how many grams of fat?
0.
And it's peanut butter?
Yeah, total digested fat 0, saturated fat 0, trans fat 0. But then
Okay,
if
and
you
how
go
many,
to the bottom, there's
how
a
many
whole
grams of,
other-
sorry, go ahead.
So if you go to the bottom, it has like a whole other like nutrition panel where it's like, oh, without it being, it must have some like weird, I don't get it. And even the guy at the store was like, I don't know how they do it. I'm like, well, is it fake? Because I want to eat like scoops of this stuff.
Can you
And I
read the
wanna make sure
ingredient?
it's not 37, it's 37, it's not 200. I'm not
Right.
just funneling
Right.
it in.
Can you read the ingredient list to me real quick?
Yeah. Steven, you do that. My eyes, I guess I need glasses.
Yeah, you and me both, sister.
Well, this one is the salty caramel version because they do have plain too, but this
Okay.
one is double roasted runner peanuts, caramelized cream, corn fiber, vanilla powder, peanut oil, sea salt, caramel flavor, grapeseed extracts, stevia plant extract, and caramel extract. But the plain one is literally just double roasted runner peanuts.
Okay.
And it's actually less this one's 37 calories, but the one that's plain is just 27 calories. And literally the only ingredient in that one is double roasted runner peanuts. Cause I remember
Okay.
looking.
And how much fiber is in it under the carbohydrates?
Fiber, 4.56.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I will look into this, but my first blush on it is that is impossible.
Well, that
It's
was my guess.
impossible. Yeah, it's impossible to have 0 grams of fat in peanuts. So unless they've somehow defatted them, but if they've, like when you have powdered peanut butter, it goes through a special processing where they defat some of the peanuts, but there's still some. There's like 4 grams of protein or
Yeah.
something versus like 12, that's a normal peanut butter. The fact that it has, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, it's real when you start looking under it all has to do with this digestive facts
Yeah.
piece, because he's saying something with the structure and how they destructurize them or something.
And it's
It's
the
like
only company that makes it like this. But I don't know. I just started to look at it a little bit more carefully, and I thought, oh God, I really need to know if this is okay, because I can't be eating scoops of this every day if it's not 37. I'm like, 37, we're good to go. Have another one.
Right.
Dark
Okay.
chocolate in there.
Yes. So Madison, I think you're on the right track that the fiber, but so remember back in the day when they were doing the whole like net carb thing. So you take out the fiber from like the total calories, because fiber is indigestible plant matter. And so, so that would kind of cancel out the carbohydrates, but the fat I've never heard. So thank you, Madison. I'm just going to read this out loud too, as I read it. Fiber binds to fat. Fiber combined with fat to help fat pass through the gut undigested. As Professor Nuts, we found a unique natural fiber that binds more fat and helps the fat get undigested. Digestibly corrected. Okay, I have never heard of this. I will definitely look into it. I mean, lots of products have corn fiber in it. So I'm not, familiar with the fact that the corn fiber can bind to that much fat that it would bring it to 0. Does anyone want to admit to any like digestive side effects of this peanut butter?
There's no issues, and it tastes really good. I mean, it's
Okay.
pretty awesome.
Okay, yeah, it sounds too good to be true to me. Sometimes these brands come out, and I remember, I don't know if anyone remembers this, it was like probably 20 years ago, there was a ice cream that had come out. It was called like Fat Daddy or something, like Big Daddy or whatever. And their label, had it having like 50 calories or something. And it was like selling off the shelves. And eventually, like 6 months later, they got in trouble for making claims and putting the wrong amount of calories on their label. And it was like, yeah, no, it actually has, 250 or whatever it was.
He was telling us at Southern Nutrition too, that it's from the same company that makes a lot of other supplements. So it's not just this, it's just like a brand within other supplements.
Yeah, no, I'll definitely look into it and report back to you guys next time. But between now and then, Miss Kelly and anyone else who's eating this peanut butter, let's just pretend that it's normal peanut butter and that 2 tablespoons is 200 calories, 190 calories, whatever, and just treat it like normal peanut butter. Okay, because the only reason I asked about any digestive after effects, again, remember, I don't know if any of you, remember this 20 years ago, Olestra was something that came out that was a fat. It tasted like fat, but it passed through your body undigested, and they were using it in these potato chips. And so people were eating like an entire bag of potato chips in a sitting and then having like diarrhea. And it's like, well, if you eat an entire bag of chips in a sitting, it's not good anyway. But especially with this, fat that's, supposedly like passing through your body undigested, it has to come out. So that's kind of what I'm remembering as I'm hearing this, like, fat that's not being digested, that's binding to some fiber. Like, yeah, I can't imagine. Again, I have never heard of this. I've never heard of fat that doesn't get absorbed. Fiber, the definition of fiber is literally indigestible plant matter. But fat gets absorbed, gets digested. And I've not heard of fiber that binds to a certain fat that causes it to not be digested at all. I mean, the fact that they have 0 for the fat is interesting to me, because I just can't imagine that it would like bind to all 100% of the fat. And if so, why has no one ever used this before? So anyway, all right, good. Wow, you guys like stumped me right at the beginning here. Maybe I won't ask for questions anymore. Just kidding. Thank you, Kelly, for bringing that to my attention. Oh, now I can't hear you. You just put yourself on mute, babe. There we go.
At least that will save us $14 a week.
And it's not cheap. Oh, that's so funny. So, I mean, if you like it, continue to use it. But, like I said, don't sit there with the spoon and the jar and the couch and think it's, 28 calories. Yeah. All right, guys. So let's go ahead. Feel free to continue to put any questions that you have in the chat. I'll try to keep an eye on it. Oh, Lori's here. Lori wasn't sure if she was going to be able to join. She's the other dietitian that a few of you are doing individual consultations with. So yay. Lori, feel free to tune in and read what we've said so far. I don't know when you joined, but about this Professor Nuts. And if you can, look it up while we're talking here and report back at the end, feel free. Otherwise, I will do some research and get back to you guys next time about it as well. So today, what I want to do is talk about mindful eating. So this is definitely geared toward those of you who want to lose weight, who are, or prevent weight gain in the future, who are really in this challenge to, not only just get more fit, but definitely wanting to focus on sort of that weight loss piece, or just, like Andrew said, thinking about, okay, I've got the exercise piece down, but nutrition, I'm really good during certain days, halo over the head, but then the weekend comes and the halo comes off and all of that. So I want to talk, and again, just like Lori will tell you too, we are human first and dietitian second. And so, everything that I'm telling you, I struggle with as well. I have a mean sweet tooth. I love chocolate. And so, some of these techniques I have to, put the mirror on myself sometimes and kind of go from there. So again, my contact information is up here. If you guys want to reach out, or if you want a copy of these slides, feel free to email me. So when we talk about being mindful around our eating, it's really sort of connecting your brain to your stomach, so that we're not just eating until we clean the plate, We're not just eating because it's 12 o'clock. We're not just eating, whatever's put in front of us. Definitely not eating, while we're on the couch, in the car, at the desk, without some focus on that food. So, one of my rules is I want you to love food. I want you to enjoy your food. Well, maybe you don't have to love it. Most of us do. And that's why we're here. But really enjoying that food. Food is yummy and food is meant to be enjoyed, and food releases endorphins in our brains that make us feel good. And not to mention the physiological need for food to keep going. So, when we can enjoy our food, we can, connect to it and get more satisfaction out of it. And that's part of being mindful, is that you're not just shoveling it in while you're, spacing out doing something else, but you're really like, if I'm going to have this, I'm going to really, enjoy this. So, one of the first things here, eating without distractions. So again, turning that computer off, don't eat in the car, close the computer, turn the TV off, all that kind of stuff, and paying attention to the food. So if it is, an orange, if it is chocolate, if it is, French fries, whatever it is, healthy, quote unquote, unhealthy, whatever, paying attention to what that food is, how it smells, how it tastes, that texture, also how it makes you feel. So, thinking about like, when I eat this, it gives me a headache, or when I eat this, I feel like this spike and crash in my blood sugar. When I eat this, I get kind of a tummy ache, but it tastes so good that I just deal with it anyway. When I eat this, it gives me indigestion. When I eat this, it makes me really happy. When I eat this, it makes me feel guilty. So, paying attention to how what you're putting into your body makes you feel physically, emotionally, mentally, focus, all that kind of stuff. And then you can kind of form decisions. It can help you decide if you are going to engage in those particular foods on a regular basis. If it's something that's detrimental to you, either physically or emotionally, then we need to think about, is it worth it? Is it worth it for you to have that food if it's going to, have a negative impact on you? If it makes you feel really good and really happy, then okay, great. How do I balance this with, maybe it's a food that, is higher calories, so it makes me happy, but I can't, do it too often if I have these particular goals. And I know this sounds a little bit corny, but giving thanks and feeling gratitude for the food that you're enjoying. So this is something that I try to do with clients that I work with, is thinking of food, so often, especially with the diet mentality and the diet culture and the weight loss culture and all this stuff, it's almost like food is evil and food is demonized. And, I just, it's, you start thinking like, what can I eat? Because everything's bad for me. And I don't want that. I don't want that attitude toward food. I want you to look at this food and go, oh, this is going to, help me from the inside out. This is going to help me to, fight some of those free radicals. This is going to help me build some muscle. This is going to give me energy. This is going to release some serotonin in my brain and make me feel good. This is going to, so even if you don't know exactly what it does, spinach and Popeye and mussels or whatever, just knowing that there's something good in this food that is going to nourish me, not just physically, but also, on an emotional level, and help me focus at work, and help me perform while I'm exercising, and help me, have stable blood sugar when I'm with my family, and, all that kind of stuff. Another thing is the environment that you're in. And it's not always possible, especially those of us with kids and families and all that kind of stuff, to, of course, eat in silence or put soft, soothing music on. But in an ideal world, if you can kind of think about pushing out some of those other distractions, and again, being more mindful around what's in front of you and really enjoying what's in front of you. Okay. So along with this idea of being mindful and connecting our brain to our stomach. So sometime, and I may have already said this in one of our other classes, but sometime around the age of 6, 7, 8 months old is when your stomach gets to be the size, or starts to at least get bigger and bigger, where you can hold enough milk and you can actually sleep through the night. Okay. So that's when as we're aging, as we're growing, as toddlers are getting bigger, as kids are getting bigger, their stomachs are getting bigger and bigger and bigger until we get to about softball size. So that's about the size of your stomach at rest. And I say at rest, meaning empty. Okay, it's about the size of a softball, but it stretches. When we put food in, it stretches, and then food digests, and then food goes in, and then food digests. So paying attention to when we are actually satisfied, when we're hungry, when we're satisfied, when we're full, when we're stuffed, those, we have to connect our brain to our stomach, because somewhere around, childhood to teenhood to early adulthood is when we sort of stop paying attention to those hunger cues, and we just eat because it's there. We eat because it tastes good. We eat because we're bored. We eat because that's what they served us, and so I eat it all. We eat for all these other reasons. We eat the amounts that we're eating, and not necessarily because we're satisfied or full. Okay. So on this scale of your hunger and your fullness, I want you to eat when you are at a 2 or a 3. So that's going to be like, at a 3, you're kind of getting peckish. You're like, maybe the stomach is starting to growl a little bit. At a 2, it's like, hey, really growling. When you get to a 1 or even a 0, that's not on here, that means that you're so hungry, you're not even hungry anymore. And I'm sure some of you have experienced this before in your life, where, you get past the hunger stage. And that's why I mentioned, that infant is when we're infants, our stomachs, get hungry. And so we wake up, we cry, we expect mom to give us food, and then we go back to sleep. Well, about age 8 months, you sleep through that. And so the stomach still gets hungry at 2 or 3 in the morning. Right now, all of us, our stomach is getting hungry in the middle of the night, but we're past the age where we wake up and expect food, because we've trained our body. You don't get food in the middle of the night. And so it shuts down that hunger, and you wake up at like a 0. So most of us wake up at a 0, where we're so hungry, we're not even hungry, because sometime in the middle of the night, I went through that stomach growling, and then, it goes, down all of those hunger cues, but you're sleeping. And so we wake up at a 0. If you're not used to eating breakfast, you'll stay at a 0, because your body knows, hey, I asked for breakfast for days in a row, and she just doesn't give me breakfast. She just doesn't give me breakfast. So it's like hitting your head against the wall. I'm going to quit asking, because the answer keeps being no. So it just quits asking. So you stay at a 0. Those of us who are used to eating breakfast, my stomach is used to getting food within 30 minutes of me waking up in the morning. And so once I'm awake, shortly after, it'll start growling. It knows, hey, I know some food's coming. But if I didn't eat breakfast on a regular basis, it would stay shut down. So that's why people who don't eat breakfast always tell me, I'm not hungry. It's super easy to skip breakfast, because you're shut down. And that shutdown is part of that whole metabolism. We talked about that on the first session, part of that metabolism, just sort of like conserving a little bit. Hey, I know you're not going to feed me, so I'm just going to not quite give you as much energy either. I'm not going to quite burn as many calories. I'm not going to quite, raise that metabolism as much. So we want to try to eat at that 2 or 3. So if you're hungry at 10 o'clock in the morning, but isn't that time for lunch yet, what do? You can have a snack. So a snack is not going to fill you. You're not going to be at a 10 after eating a banana at 10 o'clock in the morning, but that banana will maybe take you from a 3 to a 4, and then it'll digest. And then an hour and a half later, or an hour later, you're going to be hungry again. And then maybe it'll be at least close enough to lunchtime that you can, get to lunchtime. So we don't want to allow that 2 to 3 plus. Let's talk about what happens when you're at that 2 or 3, right? You got the physiological hunger, a little, stomach growling. But then what else happens? The emotional kicks in, right? The, I'm starving and, hangry, and I'm, a hot mess, and I turn into a really angry person and really mean and really moody, and I chop the heads off of my kids, and right? I call it the hissing cat. So that's how you feel when you allow yourself to get too hungry. Again, I'm not talking about those of you who don't eat breakfast, because you already are in the 0 where you don't feel symptomatic hunger. Symptomatic hunger has gone away and your metabolism is like hanging on. I'm talking about throughout the day, as you're going through the day and you start feeling the symptomatic hunger. Okay. So at a 5, you're neutral. So that's where you're like, it might be, an hour or 2 after lunch, hour or 2 before dinner. You're kind of in that nice, happy, like, I'm not hungry, but I'm not full. If someone put food in front of me, I could probably eat it, but I'm not necessarily like hungry. Okay. At a 7 or 8, okay, it says here 6 to 8. Now, if you want to lose body fat, this is where you really need to start paying attention. Okay. Portion control when it comes to losing body fat. So you need to stop at a 6 or 7. And believe me, that is not full. That is, I am satisfied. I am satisfied. I'm not hungry anymore. I'm not even neutral. I'm a little bit above neutral. I'm close to I'm satisfied, but I'm not full. So an 8, 9 is going to be full. And then of course, 10 is going to be sort of that stuffed feeling where you're like, oh man, I wish I wouldn't have done that. And I'm not even talking about Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is like a, 14 on this scale. I'm talking about just kind of the, couple times a week or maybe daily overeating that we do to kind of that stuffed area. So stuffed is going to be, thank you very much for the deposit into your savings account. Remember when I talked about your checking savings, that's when you're going to store fat. When you eat more than what you need for the next 3 to 4 hours, that's when your body says, okay, now look at what it says. It takes about 15 to 20 minutes for the signal in your brain to get to your stomach. So those of you who eat really fast, you can go from a 2 to a 9 and not even realize that you're at a 9. You think you're at a 7 because you ate so fast. So eating more slowly, putting the fork down between bites, drinking some water. We're going to talk a little bit more about this in a second. That's going to help you. So, it's that idea of, okay, 15 minutes into the meal, kind of stop before you go for a second helping, before you go for, more food. Ask yourself, okay, how do I feel right now? Or if you finish a meal and you're like, oh, I could use a little more, wait 15 minutes. And if you wait that 15 minutes, you'll probably find that in that time, the stomach and the brain caught up to each other. Okay. So there is a delay between when you're putting the food in to when it actually registers to the brain. So eat more slowly, wait for that signal, and learn what it's like to be satisfied versus full. Okay, satisfied is, oh, I could have another slice of pizza. Oh, I bet you could. But do you need it? And if you have that other slice, or it might even be half a slice, is it going to take you from a 7 to an 8 or an 8 to a 9? Okay, so it's learning to be, and again, I'm not trying to starve you. I'm just trying to create a bit of a deficit. So in order to lose fat, we have to have a little bit of a deficit. We have to have that like little bit of satisfaction versus full. Okay. All right. So how do we do this? How do we do this? So I was just talking about hunger. And let's differentiate between true hunger and psychological hunger. So true hunger is what I just talked about. It's when your stomach's growling, you're thinking about food, maybe you're getting a little hangry, maybe your mood is changing a little bit, maybe you're even getting a little lightheaded, headache, all that kind of stuff. When you're experiencing true hunger, you eat. I don't care what time it is. If you are hungry in your belly, then it's time to eat. Don't allow yourself to get to that zero. Now, psychological hunger is a whole different animal. All right. So that's when you eat because, name it. I'm bored. I'm happy. I'm sad. I'm angry. I'm upset. So here's one of the things that I want you to do. If you don't know, am I psychologically hungry? Am I really hungry? Because sometimes it's hard to tell the difference. Ask yourself, would I eat an apple right now? It doesn't mean you have to eat an apple. If you don't have any apples in the house, okay? It's just a question you're asking yourself. Would I eat an apple right now? Now, unless you're like a huge lover of apples and you would eat an apple no matter what, an apple's a good food to ask yourself because, we like them. I mean, they're sweet, they're crunchy, they're, flavorful, but it's not Godiva, right? So would I eat an apple right now? If the answer is yes, you probably are, below a 4 or 5 on that scale. You probably could use something to eat, whether it's a snack or maybe it's that next meal. If you're like, no, I don't really want an apple, but I could down some Ben and Jerry's right now. You're psychologically hungry for sure. Okay. So again, doesn't mean you have to keep a bushel of apples at home and eat that apple, but it's a good question to ask yourself, how hungry am I right now? If you're really hungry, you would eat an apple. Or if you want to choose a different food, like a carrot or whatever. If I'm really hungry, I'll eat a carrot. But if I'm not really hungry, I'm not eating a carrot. But I got room for the chips, the whatever else, right? Okay. So if the answer is no, I would not eat an apple right now, you're probably psychologically hungry and you probably don't really need anything to eat right now. So what do you do instead? I want you to make a list. I gave you a couple examples here, but ask yourself, what would you do when that tempting food is calling your name, but you're not really truly hungry? What could you do instead? If you truly don't want to eat it because it's sabotaging your weight loss goals. Okay. So what could you do instead? You could go for a walk. You could call a friend. You could, jump on Facebook. You could play with the dog. You could jump in the pool. There's a million things that you could do, but the whole point here is distract yourself. And if you can distract yourself for 15, 20 minutes, often that thought will go away and now you're on to something else. Okay. But if you sit there and stare at the food, you're just going to want it more. So differentiating between that true hunger and that psychological hunger. Okay. Now let's talk about the chair, table, plate method. So what this is a mindful eating technique that I like to teach that is the opposite of the bag of chips or pint of ice cream on the couch, standing in the kitchen, eating in the car, you name it. The calories don't count if I'm just standing in the kitchen. If I just eat out of the container, I didn't commit to it. Yeah, it does. So the chair, table, plate method is a mindful way to eat. So what it is it's every single time you eat, you take that food and you put it on a plate or a bowl or whatever. You go and sit at the table. You don't stand in the kitchen. You don't sit on the couch. You go to a table, you get a spoon, you get a fork, you get a whatever. Maybe it is something you eat with your hands. I don't care. Go to the table and enjoy that food without distraction. So bring yourself to where you normally eat food, measure out or portion out what you want instead of eating it from the big container. And you can always go back and have more, but when you go back and have more, there's like one more step involved with you. Oh, I'm going back to get more versus like putting, having the container there and you don't even realize how much you're eating. And pretty much, pretty soon the box of cereal's half gone or the chip bag is half gone or whatever. Okay, so you definitely lose track of whatever portion you're eating. And like I said, putting the plate down forces you to acknowledge what you're eating before you eat it. Okay, so even if it's almonds, like put them on a plate. You know, whatever it is, chips, put it on a plate. I know it's weird to eat chips off a plate at home, but it'll help you to commit to that particular food, to commit to a portion size that is going to be reasonable for you. So again, I don't care if you eat chips, if you eat ice cream, if you eat chocolate, just commit to that portion, sit at the table and be mindful around doing it versus, you know, eating it everywhere but where that food should be consumed. Okay. All right, another one that tends to get lost in the whole mindful eating discussion is the Clean Your Plate Club. All right, and I'm sure some of you were taught as you were growing up, maybe some of you are teaching your children right now to clean your plate. So thinking that we need to finish everything at our plate is an error. We don't need to, okay? I always think of it as your waist and your waist. Would you rather that food go around your waist, or would you rather that food go into the waste basket? So, you know, if I'm gonna, you know, do I need to finish all these fries? Do I need to finish all these, whatever it is that's on your plate that you're like, yeah, no, I'm at a 6 or 7, I'm good, but they're still hot and crispy. They're still calling my name. Toss them, just toss them. You know, give them to someone else, like whatever, just get them out. So I would like to start a club that is the Leave a Few Bites Behind on Your Plate club, but it's not quite as catchy and honestly not quite as fun as the Clean Your Plate club. So, but it can be very effective. So it's literally consciously leaving a few bites behind. And I'm not talking about the broccoli, the parsley, the whatever that's on your plate. I'm talking about the good stuff. All right. So purposely, that is training you to have discipline, to have self-control, to, you know, to push that plate away a little bit and say, nope, don't need them all. I had my fill. I had some French fries. I'm not depriving myself. I'm eating French fries, but I don't need all of these. Okay. And so pushing that plate away. Another thing that you can do is ask for a box if you're at a restaurant right away when they put the plate down. I know I'm not going to finish all this. Can you just bring me a box now? Act like you're doing them a favor. You know, I don't want to bother you later. That way, boom, out of sight, out of mind. Take half of it in the box, done. You're not going to open that box and start eating it. Okay. Out of sight, out of mind. And remember that 15 to 20 minute delay. The other thing that I have been known to do is, you know, if you're at, let's say, a fast food establishment or something like that, and you have those fries and, you know, they give you like, there's one size you can get or whatever, take some of those fries and literally throw them in the trash on your way to go sit down. So you're not tempted by all of these. And again, I'm not suggesting that we waste money by wasting food, but trust me, I'd rather it go in the waste basket sometimes than around my own waste. So, you know, thinking about which of these foods are temptations for me, how can I get rid of it? How can I just get it out of sight, out of mind? You know, that kind of thing. So, so think about that idea of leave a few bites behind on your plate club. So this could be something that could be a challenge for this next 2 weeks for you, is to look at your plate every single time you sit down to eat, but especially at lunch and dinner, if those are your, you know, if those are your days, times that you're a little bit more, you know, eating the higher calorie stuff or eating too big of portions, and ask yourself, you know, hey, do I need all this? I'm going to consciously try to leave a few bites behind in my plate. I'm going to leave a few bites behind of those higher calorie foods, and I don't need them, which actually brings me nicely to this question. So I also want you, part of your challenge for this next 2 weeks is to ask yourself this question when you sit down to dinner. Okay, I want you to ask yourself this: how little do I need to get through the next 3 to 4 hours? Notice the two words that I'm emphasizing here. How little do I need? I'm not trying to starve you. Contrary to popular belief, I'm not trying to starve you. What I'm trying to do is have you start to realize what you need. How much do I need? And instead of even saying how much do I need, I like to say how little do I need? So I want you to eat what you need. I want you to eat what you need to get to a 6 to an 8. And when you get there, you stop. Again, you may want more. Oh, I know you do. But do you need it? Do you need it? No, I don't need that other piece of pizza. I don't need to finish these fries. I don't need dessert. I don't need these things. I want it, but my goal is stronger than my desire. My why I want this goal is stronger than my desire right now. Okay, so ask yourself, how little do I need to get through the next 3 to 4 hours? Okay, so write that question down. I think that could be really powerful. All right, so here are some tips, and we've talked, we've hit a few of these already, but let's talk about, how can we be just a little bit more mindful in what we're doing. So I already said this, eating slowly. Remember that there is that 15 to 20 minute delay between your stomach saying, hey, I'm good, to when it gets up to your brain, especially when the food is still sitting there in front of you and there's more to eat and the clean your plate club and the Okay, don't just automatically eat it because it's there. I want you to really start to slow down and focus and stop when you're satisfied, not when the plate is empty. Chew each bite thoroughly. Really slow down even how quickly you're chewing and swallowing, and like I said, putting your fork down between bites and taking a few sips of water in between bites. All of these things can help to slow you down a little bit, so that, again, boom, you're not going from a 1 to a 9 super quickly. Definitely avoid, buffets, food spreads that offer a lot of variety. There's some really interesting research that came out quite a few years ago, but still stands today, that when there is more variety, people tend to eat more. So let's say that you're at, a party and there's one dessert and you're like, not my favorite dessert. I can probably skip that dessert. Let's say you go to a party and there's a beautiful dessert table with like 8 different desserts, or again, like 8 different protein choices, or 8 different, you know what I'm saying? Probably you're going to like one of those, or there's more of them. And so you're like, oh, well, I'll just have a little of this and a little of that and a little of that. And that adds up to more than what you probably need. So, when there is a lot of variety, we tend to eat more because we want to try more of the things there. Okay. So just, and of course, there's that whole all you can eat buffet mentality of, how can I just, get my money's worth? All right. So just don't even put yourself into that position. Don't even put yourself into that position. This also brings me to other research that looked at the size of the plate, the bowl, the spoon, the glass. Everything in our cabinets has gotten bigger in the last, 30, 40 years. And you might be in your 20s right now and you don't even know this, but the average plate size has increased by at least 1/3 to 1/2, like 33 to 50% bigger than it was 30, 40 years ago. So it makes sense. And they've done studies on this too. They've done studies where if I give you, a plate this big and put mac and cheese on it, you'll eat a certain amount of that mac and cheese. I put a bigger plate and I give you more mac and cheese, you'll eat more than you did when it was, you may not even finish the plate, but you'll eat more than you would have if it was the smaller plate. Bigger plate, not even fill the plate with mac and cheese, but you'll still eat more because you were given more, and it doesn't look like the plate is full. Oh, this is only half a plate of mac and cheese, but it's half of a huge plate. Okay, so the research has been done that definitely says that when you eat from bigger plates, when you have bigger bowls, when you have even bigger spoons and forks, and definitely the glasses too. I grew up where we had juice glasses that were like literally, 6-ounce glasses. And it's hard to even find those size glasses anymore at any store. So, when our automatic glass now is a 12-ounce glass, or, the automatic lowest, smallest size at Starbucks is, a 12-ounce, 16-ounce, 20-ounce, 24-ounce, the bigger they get, you're going to finish it. You're going to drink it. So trying to, start with the smaller of any of these things. The other thing, going back to kind of that emotional side of things, paying attention to what triggers you to eat. So I highly recommend keeping a food record, not just like MyFitnessPal and your calories and protein and fat and all that kind of stuff, but like, what triggers you? What emotions? Is it anxiety? Is it sadness? Is it happiness? Is it social? Is it, what triggers you to eat certain things at certain times, or eat too much, more than what you intend to do? What are some of those things that are contributing to, what goes on your plate, or what, when you're eating, all that kind of stuff, how much you're eating, what you're choosing, and paying attention, not that we're throwing you on a couch and psychoanalyzing you, but just starting to pay a little bit more attention to how those emotions drive your food choices. That can be huge. That can be absolutely huge. So one of the other things, this is just more of a logistical thing. If you've got big old packages of food, and, that big old Costco size thing of almonds, splitting that up into smaller little Ziplocs so that you can grab those and you're not tempted to just sit there with the big container and, again, hand to mouth. So the chair, table, plate method can be good there, or just taking it right when you get home from the grocery store and dividing it out into smaller portions so that you're not tempted to, continue to eat it right out of that, that container. Another really interesting concept is volume and caloric density of food, and things that have liquid does fill us up, not for long, but it does help to fill us up. So, and hot versus cold. There's some research that hot foods tend to satisfy us, and foods that we chew versus foods that we drink. So, fruits and vegetables are very high in water content, soups, oatmeal, things that are warm and kind of soothe us, but also have that higher water content. Those can tend to give us more satiety, more satisfaction, help sort of fill us up a little bit more. So hot foods tend to give us a little bit more satiety, satisfaction, at least in the moment, than always doing, cold foods like salads and sandwiches and that kind of stuff. Again, you can eat salads and sandwiches, but if you're never eating anything hot, think about that. That it actually can, give you just that little bit more satiety. And then, definitely from a caloric density and volume. So, you can eat this much spinach for, the amount of calories that might be in 1 tablespoon of peanut butter, for example, normal peanut butter. So, if you're trying to get more volume out of fewer calories, than eating some of these foods that are higher volume, lower calorie foods, like the fruits and vegetables and lean meats and whole grains and like popcorn versus, potato chips. You can get a lot more volume out of air pop popcorn than you can out of potato chips, that are going to be, much more dense and higher fat. And then, I've already mentioned the 15 to 20 minute thing about 6 times or more throughout this session, but I'll just mention it one more time that, waiting that 15 to 20 minutes before you automatically go back for seconds is definitely huge. Waiting for that brain to connect with the stomach so that you can decide if you want to go back for seconds before automatically, going back or putting too much in your plate to begin with, and then feeling like you need to clean your plate, all of that. So a couple things that I would love for you to focus on this week, and that is just this whole hunger scale. Okay, just thinking about, am I truly hungry? Am I psychologically hungry? Asking yourself, how little do I need at this meal, I want you to look in your cabinet and pay attention to how big your plates and bowls and all of that are. So maybe you eat your cereal from a smaller bowl. Maybe you take that ice cream out and put it into a dish, the chair table plate method. I want you to think about, write down right now, maybe 3 or 4 things that you heard tonight that you're like, ooh, yeah, that's probably something that I'm not doing on a regular basis. Maybe I'll try that out for this, this next at least, 2 weeks or so. All right, so I'm going to stop the share. We've got about 10 minutes left for some questions, but I would love if you want to throw it into the chat, or if you want to just come off mute. And if you have any questions around what we talked about tonight, or just any other questions in general, would love to hear that. All right, Andrew, if we're trying to tone and gain some muscle mass, if I have a 2,000 calorie diet and I burn 1,000 calories, should I eat 3,000 calories? So you're not necessarily trying to lose weight, you're just trying to get more muscle. Is that true, Andrew?
Correct. I think trying to lose a little bit of weight, but also
Yep.
gain more muscle.
Yep. Yeah. So that is the tricky one. And I have talked a little bit about that on paper, it's impossible. On paper, it's impossible to lose fat and gain muscle at the same time. But of course we know, because losing fat causes, requires a deficit of calories, gaining muscle requires an excess of calories. But we know that we can take some of the calories away from the fat that we're burning and, use those to build muscle. Of course, it doesn't happen unless you're exercising on a regular basis, but I'm preaching to the choir here because I know you guys are, doing the workouts. So I wouldn't necessarily, if you're still trying to lose a little bit of fat, I wouldn't necessarily eat the entire amount of calories that you're burning in the exercise, and go all the way up to 3,000, just because you want to cut a little bit of fat, but you definitely don't want to be too much into a deficit. So, we don't want the entire 1,000 calories to be deficit. So maybe you kind of meet yourself in the middle there, where, you're eating some extra for the exercise you're doing, but you're not quite matching. So maybe somewhere around 2,500 calories or whatever. If do you have a Whoop, or do you have something that how many calories you're burning?
Yeah, I use the app, the Under Armour, MyFitnessPal to track. So to your question, to your presentation of like eating to 9 or 10, like how bad is that for your body? If, let's say, a week I eat 2 cheat meals where I just gorge myself, like how bad is that to what you're doing yourself?
Well, like I said, you can undo a lot of the gains that you made during the week in terms of, deficit, in terms of body fat. Now, it's not going to necessarily affect your muscle, but anytime you eat more than what you need for the next 3 to 4 hours, your body just says, thank you. And it's going to potentially store it as fat. Now, it could, some of it could go on as muscle if you've been really exercising enough to, put on some of that muscle. But once it takes what it needs for body processes and muscle building and whatever else, and it says, still got an excess, my friend, it's gonna, store that as fat. So, it's, 2 days a week is better than 7 days a week, but it's still, depending on how much more than you really need, it is, like how bad that quote unquote cheat really is. It could really undo quite a bit of gains that you had made during the week in terms of trying to have a deficit. So what I would prefer is for you to, sort of have some of those, some of those foods that you enjoy, some of those like want foods, I call them, spread those a little bit more throughout the week, rather than like saving it all up for one particular time where you just completely gorge yourself. And then, you're potentially, causing that weight gain. Okay, so let's see what else. I did a whole presentation on macros 2 weeks ago. I don't know, whoever Barnett, I did macros 2 weeks ago. So I can, either send you that presentation. We'll probably do it again the next time around. But yeah, just to answer your question real quick, it is important to follow your macros, but spreading those out throughout the day is going to be important. And ultimately looking at your total calories is going to be important too. But, if you are watching your macros, you are going to be, watching the total calories in terms of, because that's what makes up your total calories. Let's see. What do you think about eating veggies first, then protein, then starch, carbs? Yeah, I like that as an idea. Because you're filling up, quote unquote, on the fruits and veggies and the protein. And then if you still have some hunger left, or to get to that satisfaction level and, eat some of that starch, great. But if you're going to, eat tons of, rice, and then you fill up on that, and then you don't have room for the vegetables. I mean, not that rice is bad, but we want to try to have that nice mix of the fruits and vegetables and the protein. So I wouldn't say like clean your plate of all the broccoli and then clean your plate of all the chicken, and then try to maybe mix it a little bit, but maybe save some of the starch for last. So you're like, if I don't need it all, I'd rather make sure that I get all my veggies and get all my protein and stop when I'm satisfied, versus leave some of the veggies behind because you're not satisfied or you're over full now, if that makes sense. Okay. Let's see, what else am I missing? Yes, funnel cakes at Epcot, definitely. Definitely gone. All right. I've noticed that on heavy weight days afterwards, I'm hungry all day, no matter what. Okay. So yeah, this can happen. Our hunger is definitely going to go up and down. Depending on, how much we've burned, how much we've eaten, all that kind of stuff. So what I would say is if you're really hungry, like physiologically hungry, try to fill up a little bit more on protein, because protein gives you protein and maybe a little bit of fat gives you that more lasting power, whereas the carbs get used up right away. Again, that doesn't mean don't eat carbs, but if you're still hungry after eating all of and meeting your macros, and you're physiologically still hungry, then, maybe go into, have some kind of a protein, even if it's like some turkey and put it in lettuce and, have a little turkey lettuce wrap, or have some Greek yogurt, or have, a little protein shake, or a protein bar, or half a protein bar, or, and, sometimes a half a bar will do it. Again, it's just like the Clean Your Plate Club. Like a lot of times I have, half-eaten bars lying around because I just, eat 2 bites of it or break off half of it and then, tuck it away and eat the other half later. So, just trying to kind of spread that out a little bit would be good. So that's kind of my long answer, Misty, is try to, maybe up the protein a little bit, or, a little bit of fat, maybe a little bit of, nuts or avocado or something like that, that can also, give you that. Yeah, I would like to add a little carbs, after a workout. Madison asked if we can just do a protein shake. You could, but you just depleted your carbohydrate stores after a workout. So it depends on what time of day that workout is. If you're going to be eating a meal that has some carbs soon after, then I would say, you're getting some carbs there. But if you just do protein right after a workout and you're not going to eat again for another, 2 hours or so, all that protein is just going to be used for energy. And you're not really going to, sort of save that protein more for, building the muscle. So I would rather see you have the carbs right after the workout, or a combination of some carbs and protein. So yeah. Okay, I had a question that was just sent to me that you guys can't see, but I'll read it out loud. I'm trying to lose some body fat, and I'm doing meal prep. Each meal prepared has between 450 calories. Use them for lunch, dinner. When I finish dinner, sometimes I feel like I didn't have enough, like I'm still hungry. Is this me just struggling to differentiate between satisfied and wanting more and feeling stuffed? Awesome question. Awesome question. So yeah, I mean, that is part of the trial and error that you have to go through when we're in this journey, is figuring out, is this enough? So what I would do is eat your meal prep. For most people, 400 to 500 calories is a great amount for lunch and dinner. and, and breakfast. If you had 500 calorie breakfast, 500 calorie lunch, 500 calorie dinner, there's 1,500 calories, and maybe, 1 or 2 snacks that would bring you up to maybe 1,800 calories. Most people will lose weight on 1,800 calories, unless you're a really small or petite woman, with the exercise you guys are doing. Without exercise, maybe not. But if you want to aim for more like 1,500 calories, that's fine too. And have a 300 calorie breakfast and 400 calorie lunch and 500 calorie dinner and, a couple snacks in between, whatever. Okay. So, 400 to 500 calories should be a decent amount for dinner. And if you're still hungry, wait 15 minutes, wait 15, 20 minutes. And then ask yourself, am I still hungry? If the answer is, and that question would be, would I eat an apple, right? Am I still hungry? I don't know. Would I eat an apple? Would I eat a carrot? If the answer is yes, then eat something healthy. So eat that apple, eat something that's going to be, quote unquote, healthy, or some protein, again, something that's going to sort of give you just a little bit more staying power, and then wait another 15, 20 minutes and ask yourself, or, don't just sit there and obsess about it and be like, okay, I'm still a little hungry. I'm going to eat a little something. And then, you know what? I'm going to go move on with my life, and I'm going to go for a walk and take the dog out. I'm going to help the kids with the homework. I'm going to brush my teeth. I'm going to blah, blah. Okay. So try not to sit there and obsess about it, because the more you think about it, the more you'll convince yourself you are hungry. So try to be done with it. Kitchen's closed, lights off, I'm done. And if you really truly are hungry, you'll find your way back to the kitchen once you ask yourself those questions. But instead of sitting there going, I don't know, standing on the outside of the kitchen going, I don't know, am I still hungry? You can probably convince yourself you are. So I don't know. Hopefully that was helpful. All right. So I think I got to all the questions here. So I will see you guys again in 2 weeks, and we're going to hit supplements. Oh, I didn't answer the collagen question. So just a real quick, and we'll dig into collagen a little bit more later. But yeah, collagen is good. It's a protein. It's actually not as high quality protein as I thought originally. When I really started to look into it, I was like, wait, what? It's not even a complete protein or a full amino acid panel. So I actually think whey protein's better. I think that there are proteins that are going to be better. And the thing with collagen is that it's not just going to naturally make your hair, skin, joints, ligaments, whatever, boom, better. Your body creates collagen. So taking collagen, what happens is it has to break down that collagen and then rebuild the collagen. So it's not like eating collagen goes directly to the ligament in your knee. It gets broken down just like every protein that we eat. And then your body has to actually create collagen again to get into our hair, nail, skin, and ligaments and joints and all that kind of stuff. So I'm not a huge, that's just kind of my quick and dirty on it. I'm not a huge collagen is the end all, aging, reverse aging, all that kind of stuff that some of the claims are out there. But it's a decent protein, and if you want to do it, if you like it, if you like the taste of it, if you're not grossed out by how it's made, then go ahead. Okay, you can look up how it's made. I'm not going to tell you if you really want to do it. All right. Let's see. Oh, Lori, are you still here? Did you learn anything about the Professor Nuts, or should I look that up for next time? I know she
Hey,
was.
am I unmuted?
Go ahead.
Hi. Okay, so I'm looking, I have it up right now, and I'm kind of baffled myself.
Yeah.
First of all, it doesn't let me go to the ingredient page. It says error.
Oh, nice.
When I try to, yeah. But it's made with special peanuts, double roasted runner peanuts. So
Okay.
they're your peanuts, Tara. They're runner peanuts.
Ah, nice.
Yes. And of course,
They
there's
must run off all the fat.
Yes. There's
I've never heard of
corn
runner
fiber.
peanuts. I don't even know what that is.
I don't know. But there's corn fiber in there. So they
Yep.
are definitely upping the fiber.
Yep.
And
Okay.
there's stevia in there, I guess, in
Yep.
place of the sugar.
Yep. Yeah, so it is a lower calorie peanut butter no matter what, but I just can't imagine that it's the 37 calories. And I really am not comfortable with this claim that it has 0 fat. So thank you for looking that up, Lori. So I'm
You're
glad you were baffled too. I like it when I'm like, okay, this just sounds too good to be true. And you have the same conclusion. So friends, we will get to the bottom of this. We will look this up. We will try to get a little bit more information. And yeah. Okay. So E Barnett, I just saw, can we get the PowerPoint on macros? Yeah. Email me, tara@dietdiva.net, tara@dietdiva.net. And I will, I'll send it to you. Anyone who wants any of the presentations we've done, tara@dietdiva.net. Okay. Tina, you have any announcements before we let them go?
All the Zoom calls are being recorded and they're being uploaded to YouTube. So if you look up F45 Horizon West on YouTube, you'll be able to watch the presentation on macros.
Cool. All right. Even better. Yeah, because there were, I mean, just looking at the PowerPoint, I said a lot of stuff that's not just on the PowerPoint. At least the PowerPoint would give you a little something, but yeah, even better. Then you can go back and watch it. Thank you for that, Tina.
You're welcome.
All right, friends, I'll see you in another, it's 2 weeks, right, Tina?
Yes, 2 weeks.
Yeah. All right, I'll see you in 2 weeks. We'll get to the bottom of this Professor Nuts.
Thank you.
All right, bye guys.